First of all, hi, a Guten Chodesh. Everyone should be benched with a really Guten Chodesh in every single way. It should be a Chodesh of Geula, a Chodesh of Simcha, a Chodesh of transformation, Me'evel L'Yomtiv for real. Okay, I'm very excited about tonight because as I was preparing, I realized that these questions are really good, and perhaps, I think I made, in retrospect, I think it was a mistake to leave this for the end because we should have had in every session the questions, because it would have just made everything more real, more alive, more personal. So I apologize about that, and I'm sharing my mistake because I know that many of you do groups on your own, and I think it is good to do questions as they come up and just break up the material a little bit more so that you have time for that. Okay, so I'm gonna skip I prepared a little introduction. I'm gonna skip it. Let's just jump right into the questions. If I would respond using general knowledge, just plain interesting information, I feel like it wouldn't be helpful to you in the bigger picture. I wanna try to respond to the different questions and situations that came up using the language that we already have been using, because this way, the next time you're in your kitchen, you're in your dining room, you're in your bedroom, you're on the street, wherever you are in any situation, my point is I hope that we can together develop a little bit of a way of thinking rather than just specific answers to specific questions. So feel free and jump in, use the chat to share your comments, suggestions, thoughts, and let's jump right in. So the most central idea of the series has been that Hashem is the one and only power in the world, right? And He empowers each and every one of us to choose everything we do, all our behavior, everything we think, say, and do every time, everywhere, in every situation, no matter where, what, when, or how is going on. We have the power of choice, which is overwhelming, and we tend to surrender our choices to challenges, to people, places, and things, especially to people who have high energy, or to people in whom we're really emotionally invested, people who are important to us, and especially to painful realities, because sometimes the pain is so big that it distracts us from our power of choice. So what I see as the simplest statement, the simplest summary of everything we were doing in this workshop is that when the more in touch we are with our power of choice that Hashem has given us, the more empowered we are. The more in touch we are with our power of choice, the more empowered we are. The more we lose that power of choice, the lose sight of it, the more we're distracted from it, or we don't pay attention to it because we're busy paying attention to other people's choices, that's how we feel disempowered. And it works the other way around. When we feel empowered, we make choices. When we feel disempowered, we're stuck and we don't do anything. We sit in bed with the pillow over our head. We're not making, or we just do what comes automatically on autopilot. So the summary of all the, if I could see the common denominator in all the situations, all the kind of questions that came up were like, okay, this is a difficult situation, and it's challenging my ability to hold on to my power of choice, or it's challenging the validity and the impact, the effectiveness that I could possibly achieve through my choices. So how should I go about it? Now, people didn't say their question in that way, but if you listen to each question, that's really that's the common denominator in every question. Because that person is she, I can't be me. Or because the reality is like this, I can't really be the person I really am. I can't be true to myself and true to my power that Hashem has given me. So we're gonna now look at each of the questions, and as we talk about them, I hope I won't come across sounding, there's a part of me that hopes I won't come across sounding repetitive, but really it probably will be a bit repetitive because it all comes back down to holding on to our power of choice and making choices that are in alignment with our neshama. Okay, with our awesome inner self, the part of Hashem that's within us. Okay, so here's the first question. Someone wrote, I get along with everyone, but I have a relative who is very tough. She gets strong and opinionated in conversations. I feel like it's impossible to schmooze with her without getting into a confrontation. What do you suggest? How should I deal with her in conversations? And I think we all have someone like this in our lives. Sometimes we become confrontational, so it's this is a question we could all relate to. It takes two people really to get into an argument. An argument can't happen with one person. Some people do have the tendency to get into arguments more. I feel like when a person like has a tendency to get into an argument, at the heart of that is they have a need to be right. I need you to make me right, or I need you to know that I am right so that I could feel good about myself. That's really what's behind that, argumentative, defensive kind of energy that some people have a lot of in a relationship. I once felt this way actually in a relationship, and then I realized, hey, I actually, why does this bother me? Because maybe I also have a need to be right. And what happens is when I bump into the other person's need to be right, I have a need to show them why they're wrong, why I'm also right, because if they're right, if they're trying to make me wrong, I don't want to be wrong. So I was able to relate to that question. And for me, what I learned in that relationship was like, what happens if I just decide I really don't need to be right in this person's eyes? It's enough if I'm right in my own eyes. This person wasn't my husband. Maybe even if maybe we could do this even for our husband. I said, why do I have a need? Like, why do I need to be right in this person's eyes? Maybe I don't. Let me try it out. Let me see what it feels like to not need to be right. I started giving that person more space. Okay, let them be right. It's okay. Let them be right. I don't have to get into an argument. I could just say, interesting. So, and it reminds me of an experience that Rabbi Manis Friedman once shared, one of my favorite teachers. He was speaking to a teenager about tznius. And the teenager was complaining. She said, my mother is neurotic. She makes the biggest deal about a measly, simple, silly button. It's just a button. You would think it's the world, but it's just a button. You would think she would be able to ignore it, but no, absolutely, definitely, positively, she cannot overlook it. She can't ignore it. Makes me crazy. She keeps telling me to close that button, close the button, close the button, close the button. Whenever she sees me, she tells me the first thing, close the button. She makes a ridiculously big deal about nothing. It's just a simple button. So Rabbi Friedman looks at her and he says, you're right, making a good point. It's just a button. Let me ask you, why don't you just close it and be done with the conversation? And she looked at him with a big sense of surprise and she said, I should close it? No way. It's my button. Why would I want to close it? I want it this way. I want it to be open. I like it like this. So he said, but it's just a simple button. So she said, yeah, but it's mine. It's my shirt, my body. I want to wear it this way. It's how I like it. So Rabbi Friedman looked at it and said, okay, so she's making a big deal about leaving the button closed, and she's neurotic, right? And that's neurotic. You're making a big deal about leaving it open, and that's not neurotic, right? I love that story. I don't know what happened to the teenager, but that was an aha moment for me, because someone has opinions that are strong. Okay, so they have opinions that are strong. That means that person is very quick to climb onto the stage. Whenever you say something that's not how she thinks it should be said or not how she thinks it should be done, she's going to climb onto the stage and tell you that you're wrong and you should really be doing it her way because she knows better, right? So that's what's going to happen. And yet, now, it's not fun to listen to that. It's not pleasant. It's not gishmak. It's not a fun conversation to have. Nobody wants to have to deal with that. It's not comfortable. But it only becomes an argument if I also respond in that same kind of energy. Like, what do you mean you're wrong? I'm wrong. I'm not wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. And that's when it becomes an argument. So to put it in the language, right? That this questioner was saying, you're seeing yourself, the fact that you're asking this question, you're seeing yourself as a person who doesn't argue. You just like to schmooze, you take it easy, you relax in a conversation. You're gonna just be in the moment, nothing serious, nothing heavy. You don't have to prove yourself right. And that's probably true about you. But then you're sitting with this person and she does have a need to be right. She's saying things that knock your opinions, knock your ideas, and it feels like it knocks you, even though it's not you, it's just your opinion. So you feel like a need to defend yourself. And boom, that's when that's when you're off to the races. That's the argument. And now, not only you're not liking her, but you also don't like yourself. You don't like the conversation. You don't want to be arguing. So whenever there's a pattern of behavior that we want to change, it's a good idea to slow down and try to notice what's going on. What's going on inside of my mind and heart as that behavior develops? Like if I could watch that in slow motion with the spotlight in my heart and mind, what would I see? I'm guessing that in this case, what you would see is that she starts knocking you, and all of a sudden you feel defensive, like you're saying, oh, someone's knocking me. I have to prove myself. I have to stand up for myself because I'm going to be knocked. And you have a need to defend yourself. The question is, what would happen if you could give her space to just dislike your opinions and disagree with you and knock what you're saying? What would happen? It wouldn't actually change you. It wouldn't actually change anything about what you believe about yourself. It doesn't have to. What would happen? I think it would change everything, because it takes two to argue. It takes two to make an argument. It takes one person to be ridiculous, but it takes two people to argue it. And I think that, imagine if you would just nod and say, oh, that's interesting, and really try to be curious about what she's thinking and be interested, and be in a sense of wonder, like, wow, like that's interesting, and just period. Now, I'm not saying this. Sometimes, you say, oh, that's what you think. Okay, everyone's entitled to their opinion, and it's clear that you don't agree to her opinion. That's just going to, get her to keep going, because she has a need to be right. She has a need to prove to you that she's right and you're wrong. So she's just going to keep trying to convince you. And you also have a need to be right. So that argument is going to keep spinning on its wheels, and it's probably not going to go anywhere. So if you don't want to argue, and you don't want to be in an argumentative situation, an argumentative conversation, it takes two. Don't argue. Don't argue. Obviously this person is not somebody you could have that kind of schmooze with. So accept the reality and have a conversation. And if it gets into an argument, she starts knocking you. Oh, okay, that's interesting. Thank you for I appreciate the feedback. That's it. You don't have to say anything else. You could just move on to the next topic. I see that people shared. Lower the camera a drop. Is that better? Thank you. The Rebbe went further and said, even if you are 100% right, doesn't mean you have to prove it. This was regarding Shalom Bayis. Thank you, Shterna, for sharing that. The Rebbe, right. So even if you're 100%, my father used to say, Nish yeder emes darf man schreien von alle Dächer, right? Just because something is true doesn't mean you have to proclaim it for everyone to hear and for everyone to know. But to be able to do this, you really need to be able to be comfortable enough with yourself to tolerate someone. Could you be comfortable with your own opinion and trust yourself and feel valid, even though somebody else, and maybe it's a close family member, somebody that you respect, maybe in other ways, is totally dismissing you and tearing down your opinion? You need to be able to be comfortable enough to be able to just not jump onto the stage and do the same thing. Okay, here's our next question, and I love this one. Okay, I have a child who rubs me the wrong way. It is so difficult for me because I literally make him the victim all the time. She capitalized that. No matter what he does or what he says, it is never good in my eyes. Every day I wake up and I tell myself, today I will be kinder to him. I'll be nicer to him. But no matter what, that doesn't happen. How do I deal with this? So I love this question because so often we're concerned about how people are being nasty and obnoxious and rude to us. And this person is concerned about how she is being hurtful to someone else, which tells me that she is a very kind and caring and sensitive person. Because the fact that you care and that this bothers you tells me already that you're a kind and caring person. So how do we actually get to this change? So my thoughts are this: when we say this person rubs me the wrong way, what do we mean? Right? We don't mean that this person takes their elbow and they rub you on your elbow instead of rubbing you on your right elbow, they rub you on your left elbow. What we really mean is that this person is triggering some sort of weakness, some sort of reaction, a weakness, and then a reaction in your heart and in your mind. So the first thing I would say is like, you know, who does this person remind you of? Or what label is this person giving you? What label is this child giving you that makes you feel so weak or so triggered? That's triggering you inside. When you say rubbing you the wrong way, it really means like triggering something deep inside of you. What is that? Now, I don't think you should get stuck on that, because sometimes if you have an answer right away, great. It's an awareness, and sometimes it like turns the light on. But if you don't have an answer right away and you just say, I don't know, she gets me nervous or he gets me nervous, I wonder, because I mean, I would ask myself again and again until I came up with an answer, but I wouldn't stop that. I wouldn't let my lack of an answer stop me from moving on to the next thing I want to say. But let me just stay with this for one more minute. There's always a reason why we feel like we need to act out. Remember, we said when we're empowered, we have the ability to choose. When we're disempowered, we don't have that ability to choose. What's making me feel disempowered? What's making me feel weak? What's painful for me over here? What's going through, what is this? You know, I don't know any details about the situation, and everybody has somebody that triggers us, and like what we say, rubs us the wrong way. Ugh, sorry, people. Okay. So yeah, so that's how I would be. I would want to be much more specific. I'd want to get much more specific than just saying, oh, he rubs me the wrong way. I want to ask myself, what is this trigger for me? What comes up for me when I see this behavior that he's doing, or when he walks into the room? What comes up for me? Whatever it is, you'll be able to deal with it much better if you're aware of what's going through your mind and heart on a deeper level. But if you don't have an answer to that, skip it and move on to the next thing. This is another thing. We spoke about this a little bit last time, but it's worth bringing up again because here's a practical example. Mayach shalat al halev in Perek Yud Beis in Tanya means that even if the heart is very strong, that means even if we're triggered, even if someone rubs us very much the wrong way and we get very triggered, our heart has no dominant quality over our body. It's only our mind that can give us permission to engage in a behavior. That means even if I want to scream, I will not scream unless my mind gives me permission to scream. I will not do anything unless I will not even engage in a certain thought pattern without my mind giving me permission to say that or to think that. So in the Tanya, we make there's a huge distinction between koches hanefesh and levushay hanefesh, or the powers of the nefesh, meaning our mind and our heart, what's going on our inner subconscious mind and heart, and what we express in our action, in our behavior, in our conscious thought, in our speech and in our action. So many times throughout the Tanya, there's a huge distinction. It's a very, very thick distinction. And the reason for that is because one of the first things we need to know if we want to be a Beinoni, which is what everybody here wants to be, which is what this wonderful mother wants to be, is she wants to be a Beinoni in her parenting, right? Is we need to know that even if I feel like screaming, in my behavior, I don't have permission to scream. I'm not going to scream. Just because I feel something in my heart doesn't mean it has to be expressed in my behavior. That's one of the first things a Beinoni needs to learn. And that's like Tanya 101. You know, the first thing, just because I feel it in my heart doesn't mean I need to do it. We think we need to be honest, you know, especially in our culture. No inhibition, don't hold back, because then you're going to get all bottled up and it's going to go all over the place. I think it's one of the American lies. We don't have to actually, we have to be honest with ourselves. Being honest with ourselves means knowing what's going on in our minds and our hearts so that we could redirect our thoughts, so that we could try to ultimately reshape the way we feel. But the fact that we feel something doesn't mean everybody needs to know. We don't need to put ourselves all over the place. Just because we feel it doesn't mean we need to do it. My father's words play very loudly in my mind these days. We are still very close to his passing, and I hope his voice always plays in my mind because it's a happy, wise voice. But one of the phrases that comes up for me so much, I hear so many times. He used to say, "Estes krummerheit," eat it crooked. What does that mean? A banana is shaped like a smile, right? It's crooked. It's not a straight line. And the word in Yiddish for that curve is krummerheit. It's crooked. It's not straight. And there's a word in Yiddish that means like, and it also means straight. Gleich. Gleich also means immediate. Ich gleich es nicht, I don't like it. The word gleich also means straight. So we used to say, he would say, "Ess a banana," eat a banana. I would say, "Ich gleich es nicht." He would say, "Es ist krummerheit." And he didn't just say it about the banana. So the line, "Es ist krummerheit," he would say, "Clean up. I don't want to. Do it krummerheit." You know what I mean? Like that became kind of a line growing up that it's okay. You don't like it? Eat it crooked. But you get the play on words? Yeah, I'm saying, "Es ist krummerheit." So it's a very important thing to be able to do. It's okay if you don't feel like it, do it anyway. Or if you feel like it, don't do it if it's not the right thing. We don't do something that we don't give ourselves permission to do. Another thing is, and this just connects to what we're saying here, is we all know that we want to reach for positive qualities, and we try to do that. In addition to reaching for the positive qualities and the desirable qualities that we want to develop, we also need to consciously let go of the behaviors that we don't want to hold on to, that we don't want to be. We need to consciously change our minds about those behaviors. We need to consciously decide that we don't want to do that, that it's not okay. Because somewhere in our, very often, if we saw certain behaviors, or if we have a habit about the behaviors like we were saying last week, then we just kind of accept it subconsciously. We accept it as normal, and this is okay, and this is acceptable, so we're going to do it. So here, if you, oh, whoops. I don't know what's going on, sorry. My screen is locked, 1 second. Shoot. Okay. Okay. You're a kind person, and you're trying to see yourself as a kind person, right? But you have this behavior that's actually not very kind and not very pleasant for the people around you. And I think it's very important to wake up in the morning, and instead of saying, "Today I'm going to be kinder," which is obviously not enough. It's not enough to say, "Today I will be kinder." We also need to say, "Today I am going to think before I speak." I am a person, it's not just I'm a kind person. I am a person who only says helpful, productive, nurturing words. I don't say hurtful, destructive words. I don't say it. I just don't. That's not me. I pause before I speak. And if you wake up in the morning and make that commitment and really try to see yourself as that, then when negative words pop out of your mouth, first of all, you're going to be more proactive throughout the day. Like, I remember when I was working on, I'm very impulsive by nature, and I also used to say sometimes very hurtful things without thinking. So I'm critical of myself. I'm hard on myself. I'm hard on other people. So I remember when I was working on this, literally I would bite my tongue. It didn't bleed, but it really, I literally bit my tongue until to hold myself back consciously. So wake up in the morning and I'm going to be kinder. It's obviously not working because your behavior is not coming from your lack of kindness. Your behavior is coming from the fact that subconsciously you're giving yourself permission to speak that way, to be unkind. How do I know that you're giving yourself permission to be unkind? I don't know you. How do I know your subconscious mind? Because that's what the Tanya tells us. The Tanya says we don't do something unless we give ourselves permission to do it. And I just want to share something else about this, an extreme example, okay? We said it last week, but I like extreme examples because I feel like it helps us relate to it. Imagine if you see someone throwing seltzer bottles at the wall, or taking a broom and smashing everything in sight, or beating up a kid. And you ask them why, and they say, well, this kid rubbed me the wrong way. You would say, Bis Meshuggah and Gansen, what is this? What are you doing? So he rubbed you the wrong way, so what? Right? Why are you going to kill him because he rubbed you the wrong way? It doesn't make any sense. Now, obviously, when we say that, we mean it because it's such an extreme thing. But here in your question, you preface the whole question by saying, this kid rubs me the wrong way. That's an introduction, right? Where does it belong? If you're talking about your own behavior, why is it necessary for everybody to know? Why is it necessary for me to know that the kid rubs you the wrong way? I think it's because in your mind, somehow, the fact that the kid rubs you the wrong way, it makes sense that it's gonna be difficult to control your behavior. But that in itself is giving yourself I'm just trying to help you become aware that subconsciously, you're giving yourself permission to do it, and sometimes feeling guilty and hating yourself just fuels that pattern, and it doesn't make you change. It just keeps it going. The only thing that makes you change is actually when you change, when you stop giving yourself change at the root, when you stop giving yourself permission to do that. Okay, this is something really strange. Okay, I'm gonna try one more thing. My computer froze, and it would be very helpful to have these few notes. I'm sorry. I'll try one more time. I have another place where I can look this up. The next question. Okay. My husband said, no, I'm going to skip that one, do that at the end. Okay, I'm kind. My husband and I welcomed a new person to our successful business. That person managed to rewrite the entire business to his name, and after court case, we are left with nothing, not even our own home. I cannot forgive this person. Now what? So this is probably one of the most, it's one of the most devastating, painful experiences I have heard in a very long time. Obviously, the person shared more details, but this is just the gist of it. It's such a painful story. But I would love for everybody to try to think in your own life. Everybody has this. Each of us has things. We each have people in our lives that really hurt us in different ways. This way, that way, the other way. I hope that nobody hurt you this badly and caused such horrific damage. But maybe you could try to relate to what I'm saying in your way. But one of the biggest things that gives us, that deletes our power of choice is pain. Pain deletes our power of choice like nothing else in the world does. You know, somebody shared a fantastic line from Rabbi Shais Taub. They said, you're a victim for 1 minute. After that, you're a volunteer. So that's very nice to say. It's very easy to say. But how do we actually do that? Nobody wants to volunteer to be a victim. None of us want to be a volunteer to be a victim. So how do we actually do that? And really, the only answer is, first of all, deal with the pain, hug yourself, get support, get the validation that you really need. Be kind to yourself. That's like, first of all, like really be kind to yourself in your mind. Don't look back and say, I should have done this, I should have done that, I should have done that. Don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself. That's first of all. And second of all, really, and again, Hashem shouldn't test any of us. Every single thing in this world comes from Hashem. And in the Tanya, the Baal Tanya brings the example of Yosef HaTzadik, which is brought down from the Zohar, that Yosef HaTzadik is the example, the role model of recognition that every single thing in his life comes from Hashem. He had 11 bullies gang up on him. Grown men literally abuse him, torment him, torture him in the most disgusting, hurtful, catastrophic way. They killed him practically in a torturous way, and then they decided, you know what? Something worse than death, we'll give him a living hell. Instead of letting him die in 1 minute, we're going to sell him as a slave where he'll have a horrible life and will be tortured. And that's what they did. And we never see in the Torah that they apologized. Never. We don't see, oh, we feel so bad. At the end of after Yaakov Avinu was nifter, and the brothers came to Yosef, they didn't say, we're so sorry, let's have some closure here. We never really apologized. They say, we're so afraid that now that our father passed away, now you're going to get back at us. Now you're going to really do us in. They didn't say that. I mean, they did say that. They didn't apologize and say, we're sorry. They said, we're afraid you're going to get back at us. What did Yosef say? Yeah, Taka will apologize. And yeah, Taka, yeah, well, I'm the high guy and you're the low guy. No, he didn't do any of that. He said, I don't know, it had nothing to do with you. What happened to me in my life was between me and Hashem. Ki lemichya shlachani elikim. It was shlachani elikim. Hashem sent me here, and it was lemichya. It was for a purpose. Now, many of us, we don't get a chance to see the purpose in our pain, but Torah teaches us to trust that Hashem has a purpose. And when you trust that there's a purpose, you look differently for it. You know, I was once looking, my baby is, Baruch Hashem, almost 7 years old. When she was, 1 or 2, she once went to sleep at night with a pacifier in her mouth, which we call a suska. And she went to sleep with it. In the middle of the night, she woke up. You know, there was the days before they had the neon, I always say they should have these neon flashing, lights on the suskas. Looking in the middle of the night for it, I didn't have a cell phone light. I don't know. I couldn't find it. I remember being on my hands and knees under her crib, looking for that suska. And I would have given up. But I was 100% sure that it was there. 100% sure, because I put her to sleep with that suska and nobody was in the room. And as I found it finally, and as I'm sitting there on my hands and knees clutching that suska, I said, oh, you look differently when you know for sure that it's there. It was such an aha moment. If you trust that there's a purpose, you look differently for the purpose when you are 100% sure that there is a purpose, and you find it differently when you're 100% sure that there's a purpose. So I'm not one to tell you what that purpose is. All I could say is that no tears are ever shed in vain. And with forgiveness comes tremendous, tremendous, tremendous bracha. And the only way it's possible to forgive is not about forgetting, because you can't forget. You don't have to forget to forgive. What we need to do to forgive is, don't even think about forgiving. Just really do the shlachani elikim thing. Try to get that energy flowing between you and Hashem. Right now, when I'm feeling victimized, when you're feeling victimized, when someone's feeling victimized, there's a certain amount of energy that person is sapping out of you, sapping at every time you think about it, there's energy, you're losing energy to that person or to that situation, to that reality. So many people have this. Everyone, we don't meditate, but we do meditate, because resentment is a form of meditation, right? It's like revisiting again and again. And every time we think about it, we lose energy. It mamish zapt kaiches. It takes away our kaiches. But if we just turn that flow of energy really between us and Hashem, and try to put the person in this situation out of the picture. Hashem wanted me, for whatever reason, to lose my business. It's devastating. I don't know why. It hurts like crazy. I built this business up from scratch. I'm left without even a roof over my head. I don't know what I'm going to do. This is really very, 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 very painful. That's it. Between me and Hashem. Hashem help me. Hashem take care of me. You brought me here. Take me through this. Forget the other person in this situation. That person, doesn't exist. And I'm not saying, you know, when there's a din Torah, you need to take a person to a din Torah, you take the person to a din Torah. That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about after the fact. When the curtains come down and the story is over, it doesn't have to continue as a resentment, as a constant grievance, as a constant victimization. At the end of the day, if you know, once you start really putting your energy to Hashem and you daven to Hashem, all of a sudden there are blessings and there are little miracles, and I've seen this in my own life. Baruch Hashem, I never had such a terrible situation. May none of us ever be tested this way, but I'm sure you have seen in your life when you forgive and you start looking and you bring that into your relation with Hashem, there is a certain element of bracha that's just like a surprise, surprising, like really. Okay. I want to go back to that other person. Sorry. This is the weirdest thing in the universe. Did anyone have their computer? Did you ever have this that you're in the middle of sharing a presentation with very important people in your life and your computer freezes and you're kind of stuck? What do you do then? What choices do you have? I wonder. I should go to this, Shterna Ginsberg is giving a workshop about that. I should really ask her because she's feeling very stuck right now. Just kidding, Baruch Hashem. Thank you, Hashem, for helping me open my computer again. Okay. All right, sorry people. So yeah, so that was the pain bit. It's actually not working. I'm not going to try again. I'm going to put this out of my mind. Yeah, that was pain, forgiveness, and taking back our power of choice to be able to show up to our lives from a place of new empowerment. Pain doesn't mean, empowerment doesn't mean that you won't be in pain. Empowerment doesn't mean that there's not going to be a recovery period, a period during which there's going to be a new, a transformative kind of like, exploring, discovering a new path, a new form of stability, a new form of parnasa gashmis, parnasa ruchnis. It's everybody has different situations that you could, I'm sure, relate to in this. Okay, one more second. Okay, I'm going to read from here because my computer's not working. Okay, I have a sister I used to be close with on an ongoing basis. Over the past few years, she stopped calling me, and when I call her, I feel like she's doing me a chesed by speaking with me. She's not interested in me. She has no need to be in touch with me. The only time she calls me is when she needs something from me. I'm very pained by this. I want a relationship with my sister, and she refuses. I would greatly appreciate if you will address this, and it will enable me to grow from this experience. So sometimes there's a painful reality, and I don't have a magic solution to changing that painful reality. I don't have a way of getting your sister to want to talk to you, because that's obviously her reality, her choice. It shouldn't be, the fact that it's very painful to you is obvious. Everyone would be pained by that. Even if you lose a very good friend, we're pained when we lose friendships. Many people have this with sisters, with parents, with in-laws, where there's a sudden change of heart or a gradual change of heart and just people are not in touch. It's extremely, excruciatingly painful. So I'm not sure what the question is, because I only got it by text. It wasn't a conversation. I apologize that I don't understand it better. You could press, do something on the chat if you feel like I didn't understand it correctly. Because if you're asking how to deal with the pain, be kind to yourself. Keep calling her. I would say do your part, invest in the relationship in the way that you could. But I don't know if you're asking me to deal with the pain. It feels like you're asking me how to deal with it. we can't change reality. I wouldn't have a magic answer to how to get your sister to want to talk to you. The only thing I would say about it is to really keep trying and keep the doors open. And also, you never know what's triggering this for her. It could be that she's going through a very hard time and just doesn't have space. Sometimes when someone's going through something, a very, very difficult challenge, and everything could be looking perfect on the outside, but on the inside, they're going through something extremely difficult, and they just don't have the emotional space to talk to people who are close to them. People on the street, they could smile and say hi, but people who are very close to them, specifically who are very close to them, when they have a harder time because there's a part of their hearts that wants to open up to them, and then there's a part of their hearts that just is not allowing them to, for whatever reason. So it could be that she's dealing with a painful situation. It could be that she's just not interested for other reasons. Whatever it is, try not to let this be an ongoing source of pain. And it is an ongoing source of pain, but if it hurts you, there should be no element of surprise. There should be no element of like, oh wow, a whole new story. Like, accept the reality, do that work of like, okay, it shouldn't be that, your vision of reality running at 50 miles an hour and her reality running at 50 miles an hour. And every time you crash in, there's an explosion of pain. Sometimes we really need to let go of our desired version of reality, of a fantasized version of reality, and accept the reality as it is. And then we could just so that we don't crash into so much pain. And I know it's easier said than done, but that is the work. I'm going to tune into this for a minute. Okay. What about, I'm going to go with these questions for a couple of minutes here, and then we'll go to the worksheets. What about if you're working on a project together and the other is pushing okay, we're going back to the question where we were talking about that somebody has a very big need to be right and they're always pushing their opinion and knocking you. So this person asking about that. What about if you're working on a project together and the other is pushing their view, which is not in the best interest of the project? So let's go back. If the project is a business and you're business people, then it's one thing. Okay, then you're gonna have then you have to decide what's more important, the business or the relationship. Okay, but many times this happens. The project is the chinuch of our children. In fact, one of the questions that came up is someone said that she asked her husband to take her boys to shul, because in her community, the shul is already opened. Her husband decided that it really shouldn't be open and they shouldn't be going to shul, and he's not going to take them to shul, even if he goes still to a porch minyan or whatever, or to an outdoor minyan somewhere, but he's not taking his kids to shul, even though the shul is open, and the wife is very disappointed. She wants to be a supportive wife. She also wants to be a supportive mother, and she felt it's not good for their chinuch. And she's like, oh, I don't have any ideal choices here. So I would apply that question to this question. If you're working on a project together and the other is pushing their view, which is maybe not in the best interest of the project. In the case of a marriage and chinuch, the respect that the children will have by the parents keeping the peace is worth much, much more than going to shul or not going to shul. That's 100%. The value of shalom bayis, the value of the peaceful relationship in almost any chinuch issue, unless it's like really outright breaking halacha, and even in breaking halacha, you need to ask a rav. But usually, from my personal experience, the examples that I've dealt with, it's almost across the board. It's so much better to have the most important lesson and value that the kids will benefit from is shalom bayis would be more valuable than the chinuch. Let me stretch that question to this. If you're working on a project and the other is pushing their view, how do you know, why are you so sure that your view is actually the better one? Well, how do you know? It's like a little bit of a humbling thought, but women, we always think we're right. We do. We think we're smarter, we're better, we have it all figured out. How, you're saying with such certainty, you're working on a project and the other person is pushing their view and it's really not in the best interest. How do you know? Maybe they are actually right. How do you really know? And if it's joint business venture, sometimes you have to be willing to take a loss. It's very hard to answer this question in such a general way, but obviously if something big is at stake, sometimes it's worthwhile to push your view, and you don't care really, let the chips fall where they may, as they say, but you're gonna do what you need to do, because you're not willing to suffer the consequences of the loss. You always have to decide what's more important. Is the relationship more important, or this project more important? In chinuch, it's always the relationship. In business, I don't know. Okay, my brother, I think that's a very specific question. My brother likes to say that just like you can be dead wrong, you can be dead right. I love that. Meaning you could be right and be dead. You'd rather be wrong and be alive than be right and be smitten and be zerschmettert. Okay. But my heart feels so much stronger when we are triggered. Obviously, our heart feels stronger when we're triggered. That's what the word triggered means. It means that our heart, our weaknesses, our desires, our cravings, our pain, our brokenness is suddenly stirred up, and we feel it with greater intensity. That's what it means when we say we're triggered. That's what it means. And the fact that we are like this, we should embrace it and never feel ashamed by it, because this is how Hashem made us. This is how we're wired. And the more we're triggered, the more we have an opportunity in I forgot which parak, I'm not good with remembering which parak, I think it's parak tes vav, but the Baal Tanya, or maybe tes zay, parak tes vav, I think. Baal Tanya talks about that the value of the struggle in itself, that the struggle is what makes us an oived elikim. So it's like you embrace the opportunity. So I'm triggered, great. Now I have an opportunity to stretch. Now I have an opportunity to serve Hashem. This is where Hashem wants me to serve Him. If I wouldn't be triggered, I would not have the need and therefore the opportunity to serve Hashem. The fact that I'm triggered, the fact that I'm feeling weak, the fact that I'm disempowered means I now have an opportunity to let Hashem in and let Hashem make that difference that we want Him to make. Okay, what happens if you have enough control to not do the negative behaviors, but you still feel a lot of pain? Okay, we're talking about now in a relationship where somebody's getting you upset, and I have enough self-control. I think this is what she's talking about. I have enough control to not do the negative behaviors, but I still feel a lot of pain. And then I feel victimized and angry inside. I am in a situation where I've fallen in roles where I am disliked. I have given up changing the situation, but I feel angry at myself for not having enough emunah to disengage. There's so much going on here. Sometimes we confuse pain and misery. Pain is the ouch. Misery is the belief that because of this pain, I can't do my life. A lot of pain would mean a lot of loss. So what have you lost? If it's a regular relationship, I'm not doing my negative behaviors. This person is doing something to me. Like if it's a marriage, obviously you're in it. You're not running the other way. If it's a friendship, friends could be divorced without collateral damage. Even though it is good if you can find the strength to work through the issues, because definitely 100% if you work through the issues, you could stay engaged. But if you're really feeling, if the impact of you is so painful that you're not able to function, then disengage until you can find more strength to be able to engage without becoming dysfunctional. Victimized, I'm not, there's a lot of beliefs here. I'm not a victim. I'm a victim for a minute. After that, it's my choice. I'm volunteering for the position. We don't feel angry inside. Anger is a cover-up for hurt. Roles where I am disliked. This is a big, I don't know. There's too much going on here. I don't know what to focus. Don't be angry at yourself for not having enough emunah to disengage. It takes a lot of courage to disengage, because maybe there's a part, when people are abused, if you're talking about an abusive situation, that's not a husband or a close family member, and you want to be disengaged, but you don't have the courage to disengage, reach out for help, reach out for support, or even if it is a close family member, reach out for support. Sometimes you do need to disengage, and sometimes you need support, but nobody's going to be able to help you if you don't reach out. I think that this is a situation where you should reach out for more support. How do we speak about the Shvatim this way? How does Hashem say that they're all tzaddikim? It's confusing. Yeah, this is explained at length in Hasidus. They had a reason. They felt that it was the right thing to do. They had a reason. Like what do we say? The path to hell is paved with good intentions. They had a reason, and they were complete tzaddikim. They believed that they were doing it for Kavod Hashem. He was trying to be a king over them, and they weren't supposed to have have kings over them. Vukum is that he should be the king over them. It was disrespectful to the Shvatim. I'm sure there's more about it in Chassidus, but it is, yeah, they were tzaddikim. It is true, and Hashem wanted it to happen. Hashem wants you to say something other than what, thank you, Batya. Can you elaborate on feeling empowered while feeling in pain? And what about asking a Rav or Mashpia? Very important, thank you. Thank you, that is a very good idea to ask a Rav or Mashpia. Such a kind of question, yes. Or most questions. Okay, how do you feel empowered even though you're in pain? Pain is actually very empowering. Pain is the birthing stone of change. When you really let yourself feel that pain and you're not distracting yourself from it, you're not escaping from it, you're not numbing it, you're letting yourself feel that pain, you're taking it in, it's going to do something for you. It's going to give birth to something in you. Something in you is going to change. If you feel the pain of a situation, you're going to commit to something from that deep place in your heart and in your mind where you're experiencing that pain. You're going to make a commitment that something tomorrow morning or something this day will be different. And that's where pain becomes empowering. Pain is also a very deep, any emotion is very powerful. Emotions are much more powerful than our intellect. Emotions are energy in motion. It's very, 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 very intense. Emotions are a higher level, more deeply rooted in a higher level. Think about an ox, the power of a behemoth, the power of an ox over the power of a candle, right? An ox has much more energy, could accomplish much more. All our emotions have the quality of especially our human emotions have the quality of like that intensity of an animal. And from that deep place, we can daven from a greater platform, from a much deeper platform, a much stronger platform. We make commitments and changes in our lives from a deeper platform, and we have clarity that we sometimes, you're distracting yourself, and you're distracting yourself from the pain of a dysfunctional situation. And then suddenly you sit back and you allow yourself to take in the pain, and it really hits you, and then you change because you're not willing to tolerate it anymore. My husband is somewhat OCD and hypersensitive when it comes to food. I tend to feel like a failure when he doesn't want to eat the food I prepare. I love this question. How do I deal with that feeling? And practically, how do I find the balance between being somewhat accommodating and setting healthy boundaries and not overly accommodating to the point of resentment? This is such a fantastic question. And I want to broaden this a little bit because somebody else asked, my husband is hypersensitive to my words and to having his ego stoked. And I'm very careful and very hyper and very caring and very kind, but he still gets insulted. So, and this is about food. So, in marriage, that there's no other relationship like this when we really want to make our husbands happy, because that's a God-given mission. Part of our mission in life is to build a Beis HaMikdash, And there's no better, more important, more gashmistic, a physical space than that space between husband and wife. That's why in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, in other religions, marriage is considered, especially intimacy is considered, unholy. In Yiddishkeit, it's the opposite. It's the intimacy, the bond, the connection, and the love between husband and wife is the holiest part of any relationship. So here, it's challenged because he has a challenge with food, and he nitpicks, and he has certain tastes, and the wife is really trying hard to accommodate, but she can't, no matter how hard she tries. And here and there, he doesn't want to eat the food that she makes. It's very insulting. It's off-putting, and it makes. So here's what I want to. When your husband doesn't like your food, there is a label that lands on your forehead, or maybe it lands around your neck. It says "failed wife," and that's very painful to wear. And because you feel that pain, I am a failure of a wife. I cannot make my husband happy despite my hard efforts. I hate him for giving me that disgusting, ugly, moldy label to wear. I hate him for it because now I have it and I have to wear it, and I'm forced to wear it because look, he's not eating. He had a whole day of work and he's not eating. So I'm a failure. I'm a failure wife, and I hate him for making me into a failure. My best thought that's a recipe for disaster, because then you're angry at him for feeling that way. And the you know how it is in a marriage and really in any relationship, all of a sudden it spirals out of control, and then you don't talk to each other for a day or 2 days or 3 days or a week, and it's not good. It's not how either of us anybody wants to be. Nobody wants to be that way. My personal suggestion is give him permission to be himself. Give him permission to be himself. Give him space to be him without you needing to fix him, to change him, to help him get over himself. Okay? His issues, his OCD belongs to him. You can go, you said, you asked for a balance. I think the balance is give your suppers, give your food that you're preparing for him, give it some thought. Make it a priority, because that's the right thing for you to do. Make it a priority on your list, absolutely. But be reasonable within your own priorities, meaning you also have, assuming you have other responsibilities in your life. It's not just about putting food on the table, right? You have other responsibilities. So even with it being a priority, it's not going to be your 24/7 job. And even if it is your 24/7 job, you will not be able to please him. So if he doesn't like the supper, instead of taking it on as a failed wife, just know it's not about you. It is not about you. And the minute you learn that it's not about you, all of a sudden, you're going to be able to empathize with him, because you're not wearing a negative label. You did your best. You made a good supper. He's got a problem. Nabach. You could feel for him. You could feel with him. He has a problem. He can't eat for whatever reason. He's unable to eat. It's a terrible problem for him. It really is. He's locked in it's an illness. He's not able to get over it for whatever reason. You could empathize instead of being mad at him, angry at him for his if you give him permission and space to be him, you won't be angry. You won't take it personally. You could just let him be him. You could empathize and not make yourself crazy. It won't be crazy making, because if you make it about you, it is crazy making. It is crazy making. You will constantly be feeling like a failure. You're going to be working hard, and like you say, it's a lose-lose proposition. So give him space, give him permission to be him, and give yourself permission to decide how much time, effort, and energy you could invest, and check in with a mashpia or with a trusted friend to just make sure that, sometimes when we say, oh, he has an issue, so then we don't even do anything, we don't stretch, because we kind of know, we get used to their complaints. So just check in with somebody to make sure that in the way that you're setting up your day and your schedule, that you're really giving this the priority and the attention that it deserves, being that he is your husband. Okay. I'm not going to read every. Okay, I'm just going to do the questions now because we're, oh wow, we're late. This will be the last question for now. It took me years to develop self-respect, confidence, and ability to feel comfortable using my voice and making choices. Wow. Now that I have gotten to this point, I find myself triggered by any threat to my sense of empowerment. So I'm not yet at a 10. The fear of going back to being a victim drives my most negative behaviors. How do I move past this? Wow. I want to read this question one more time. So it took me years to develop self-respect, confidence, and ability to feel comfortable using my voice and making choices. Now that I've gotten to this point, I find myself triggered to any threat to my sense of empowerment. And the fear of going back to being a victim drives my most negative behaviors. How do I move past that? Wow, so it's like you're climbing out of a pit and you're not really there yet, because if some that you're so afraid, and you're not really out of that pit. You're not out of the pit of really owning your empowerment, and you feel very weak and victimized by people around you, by situations, by reality. And so when you're not climbing out, you're not done climbing out, you could easily lose your grip. It's not like you're standing on firm ground, solid footing, and you're not going to fall. Here, when you're kind of like, you're still grappling with it yourself. It's like any wind could come and blow you away. So I mean, it sounds like you're working hard and you're on a path. So at this point, it is a good time to not expose yourself to situations where you're going to feel this way, where you're going to be triggered. Maybe you need more support. But I want to say one thing that might be a little bit, I don't know. I hope you could hear this. Okay. Try to be in the moment. This moment, for me, this personally is makes the biggest, if everyone walks away with this, I will feel like, if you go away home with this one idea, and I feel like this is this is a very big idea, which make every moment the most important moment in your life. And not just the most important, but as if it's the only one that matters. Because right now, it is the only one that matters. Try not to get stuck in the past. Try not to get ahead of yourself into the future. Really, you're here now. This is where you are. This is the only place where you are. And your mind was very hurt by your past. And sometimes when we go through therapy, and I'm a believer, I support people's journeys in therapy. Just want to put it out there. I feel like for many people, it gives people the ability to have that conversation between their mind and their heart, whereas before they didn't. It gives them sometimes deeper insight. But sometimes when you spend weeks and months and maybe years talking about your past, it's almost impossible to see yourself in this moment as an entity, as a being, as a person who is completely separate from the past. The past is gone. The future is not here either. It's this moment that counts. And the more you could stay in this moment, not in the future, not in the past, not in other people's heads, literally not in other people's heads. Sometimes you walk into a situation and it's like, oh, that person must be thinking she's the wife of the guy who just wrote that nasty letter to my husband, to my father, to my kid. She's the wife of my husband's teacher, and my kid was misbehaving. All of a sudden, we go into people's heads, and suddenly we're shrinking into our toes, and we're feeling less than ourselves. It's a bad neighborhood. Anytime you get into someone else's head, or you get into your past, and we really want to put the spotlight of our hearts and minds is, what am I going to do right now to demonstrate that Hashem echad ein od movadai? He is my empowerment. I am here to serve him, and he's giving me everything I need to make the next right move. That's all that matters. So the more you can focus on that, the less disempowered you'll be by the past, by fears, by anything else that's going on. Really try as much as possible to focus on the moment. Somebody posted this, also very interesting, for the person who was dealing with food. Make a list take 10 minutes or however long it takes, make a list together of his preferences and accept that they're very different from yours, and try to make a few basic favorites. After that, it's his choice to enjoy or to be unhappy. Thank you. That's a very practical idea. I'm just going to see if there's anything else that is not public. Everyone could read the public messages. Okay, did you notice that we didn't get to the worksheets? I'm trying to think what I should do about that. I feel like they're self-explanatory. I don't know. We will let you know. Maybe we could do another. We could do another group on it if it takes a half hour, or however long it takes. I guess I'll keep you all posted. So thank you very much for joining. Anybody else want to? I'm gonna turn off the recording and open up. Unmute, okay? Yay. 1 second.